Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Pull Up a Sandbag with Joe. Hi, my name's Joe O'Connor, founder and CEO of the Transformer Company, and I help veterans, veteran business owners, and those who support veterans become even bigger, better and bolder versions of themselves. And I do this in three key areas: health, wealth and mindset. So welcome to another edition of Pull Up a Sandbag with Joe, and as you know, we go through three particular sections. The first is I take a look at the week that was. That is the previous week, and today we're looking at the 25th of June 2022, and it is of course Armed Forces Day, which is a brilliant day, and I really love celebrating it. So congratulations to those of you who are in the armed forces still, or have been in the armed forces and are a veteran in the past. So thank you for your service. So the week that was is when I look at the week's events of what I think could be reported on and maybe give my take on it. Then we have an interview with someone who's a giant in the industry sector or profession that has transitioned from the military to civiliancy or just supports veterans and wants to impart some knowledge. And then finally, we look at the health, wealth, mindset section, where I give a tip on either a health, a wealth or a mindset aspect of life to help you get better results. So, the week that was, as you know, there's lots of stuff that goes on in the world that can seem like it's not that good. There's also even more stuff that goes on in the world where it's not widely reported. It is good news though. So what I'd like to do is bring to you something that I would listen to, and I did a little bit of research into, and I thought, wow, isn't that fantastic? An 18-year-old student who is been looking at things to help people who are hard of hearing or deaf. She launched a signing service some years ago when she was 18 to help viewers who are hard of hearing or are deaf enjoy films more. So what happens is that a film, a blockbuster film or something that she's being asked for will be signed as the film unfolds and the story unfolds. And she started with nothing, and with a very low budget, she just did it from her part-time job. And now she's got 12,000 subscribers, which is brilliant. She's still not charging for the service. The fact is, though, it's a worldwide phenomenon now, and I think that this could be a really brilliant concept. So even when you think that you're down and out and you're not sure what to do, then just continue with your dream. She has a £70,000 debt, a student debt, right, which I'm sure that she will be able to reduce or even eradicate because of her service to society and how she's serving others. Right. What I listened to as well is that between March and May of this year, 2022, discretionary spending has been reduced. This is especially in the areas of music and entertainment, and it's fell by 7%. Strangely enough, YouTube use has increased. So I'm talking about the things like Netflix and Spotify and those sorts of services, because as you know, things are getting a little bit tight now with inflation, so discretionary spending always comes under scrutiny when we do have a clampdown. 21st of June, we saw, is the longest day of the year, and it seemed to commuters that it was even longer than normal, because this was the day in the week that the first rail strike started and caused disruption. Now, disruption to the wider community as well. 50% of businesses, like coffee shops, and the businesses that serve commuters, saw profits reduced or takings reduced drastically. And some businesses, because of this action by the RMT, will cause businesses to fail. Tony Marthery of Blue Orchid Group in London said staff had difficulties getting in and out of work, with lots of cancellations that cannot be rescheduled. For instance, the Queen's tennis competition won't be able to be rescheduled for any commuters that didn't get there. And this was just at a time when our economy was starting to recover. And as a consequence, on this day alone, there could be as much as £1 billion lost just for each of the day's strikes. So that's a Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So we always have to look at the consequences of action taken. And what I'm going to be doing this week, I'm going to be doing the wealth section towards the end of the podcast. And I'm going to be looking objectively, by the way. I'm just going to give an objective view. You can make your decision whether you support strikes or not. I just want to be able to put it into terms where you and me can understand exactly what the ramifications are from an economic point of view. Tesla cars have been banned from using military installations in China. What I mean to say by that is any diplomats that go in and out of government installations, or indeed any soldiers going into military establishments, cannot go in using a Tesla car. Now, this is despite Elon Musk saying that he wouldn't monitor any conversations or anything that goes on. The Chinese government has said no to Tesla cars. Russia, the Russian editor of the Russian paper, Dmitry Maratov, got the Nobel Peace Prize for his work on reporting and the way he serves his community. And what a guy. He sold his Nobel Peace Prize to support Ukrainian veterans and the Ukrainian public for $103 million. And all of that money went over to Ukraine. Staying on the subject of money, the buy now, pay later economy that we have here, where people are induced to buying things because they don't need to pay it on the actual day. They take it out of the store or receive it online. They pay later. And it's sold as a convenient way and an easy way to buy things. The fact is, and you can spread the payments, the fact is that it may mislead you or someone you know to have a false sense of affordability because you're not paying for it straight away. If you're already on a tight budget and maybe you think that you should buy something now and pay 3 months later or 6 months later, we are not sure yet what inflation is going to do. So what I'm suggesting to you, and in fact, strongly suggesting, is that you think before you buy something on a buy now, pay later. Pitfalls, for instance, if you miss a payment with the buy now, pay later scheme, once you have to start paying, there are extremely high penalties. The other thing, of course, is if you're unable to meet the payments, then the company will, in 99.9% of the cases, will pursue you either to seize the goods and then sell them probably at a lower value than you bought them at, and then will pursue you in court to get the difference or all of the money back. If a CCJ, a county court judgment, is issued, this could mean it would affect your credit rating. So, and once your credit rating is affected, that can prevent you from buying things when your cash flow is better, say on HP, or getting a mortgage, or lots of different credit rated products where before you can get a loan, the lender or the company will look at your credit rating to determine whether you're a good bet for them on repaying the loan. So on Wednesday that week there was a bit of good news for me, right? Because I took my wife on an evening out, and I think that if you're able to take your spouse, partner, loved one on an evening out, whether it's a walk, you should do that, just to spend some time together. And this was to see a hero of mine. I remember when I was in America on a bit of R&R, rest and recovery, and we'd had a real tough exercise, and I've been working with the Royal Engineers, creating battle sims and all sorts of stuff for the Scotch Guards, working in America. And by the way, the Americans were really impressed with the way that us Brits worked. And it was great working with the Americans as well. So when I was walking around with my Sony Walkman on listening to music, I was listening to George Benson. So on Wednesday, I got the chance to see George Benson live. We went over to Leeds, and wow, what a performer. Even though I think he's 78, he was still performing at his best, and I just love the way he plays jazz guitar, and his band was superb as well. And everyone in the audience was dancing, we got video, all sorts. What a fun night. Coming back to the economy, or global economy, we look over to Germany now. And Germany launched an emergency gas initiative to pass on prices to the public. And I'll cover that a little bit more because something else developed later in the week. Staying in Germany and America, Elon Musk announced that he's losing billions of dollars in Germany and America because of the interruption to supplies from China. So you can see the energy crisis, if you weren't aware of it already, is having an effect on global economies. Some more good news. Serena Williams, age 40 years old, is making a comeback. She featured in this week at Eastbourne, warming up from Wimbledon, and was performing absolutely brilliantly. Last year, as you know, at the last Wimbledon event, she slipped on the court and injured herself. So to make a comeback at this age is absolutely brilliant, and she's still feeling good. People are questioning whether she's still got the speed, but she's certainly got the serve. She's got the experience. So I reckon she's going to put up a real good match to younger competitors, the up-and-comings. Moving on to the Conservative Party, because the news wouldn't be news at the minute without looking at the government. The by-elections in Tiverton and Honiton, right, the Liberal Democrats, won the seat by more than 6,000 votes. Now, when you consider that only 3 years ago it was a Conservative win by 24,000, a majority of 24,000, oh, how the mighty have fallen. And then on the same day, another by-election in Wakefield, the Labour converted a deficit previously of 3,338 at the last election to a 4,925 majority. And then around about the same time, the Conservative chairman, Oliver Dowden, steps down and said he no longer wanted to continue. Some more good news as the Prince of Wales opens the Commonwealth meeting in Rwanda and asks them to decide whether they want to continue as members of the Commonwealth or become a republic. This surely is indicating that change is afoot for the royal family. And then later in the week, Prince Charles received in cash $1 million as a charitable contribution. There was some furore about this, why you give cash rather than make a bank transfer or some sort of transfer through a bank. No one really knows. What the royal commentary said is that everything was done in the right order with the right scrutiny. So I suppose we'll find out in the future whether it continues to be a matter for concern or it's just forgotten. I did mention earlier that Germany passing on the costs of the energy rises to the public. Well, now later in the week they raise a second level of concern on the gas supply. If there is a third level executed, then this could mean that gas and the usage of will be rationed, and it's up sixfold. The price of gas is up sixfold, and they may now move, despite the commitment to greener energy, they may move to using coal to produce electricity in the future to stem gas usage. Because as you know, with the conflict going on in Ukraine with Russia, the energy and the gas being supplied to Germany and in fact the European Union is being affected. Good news on a Thursday this week, Glastonbury Festival starts with lots of great bands, loads of entertainment, and the headliner was Paul McCartney at the age of 80. He is the oldest performer ever to have appeared at Glastonbury, so well done to Sir Paul McCartney. Noel Gallagher was also featured with lots of other bands too. And finishing today with some great news that you're never too old to have a great time and you're never too old to actually achieve your dreams. Right? Rex Buttle, aged 80 years of age, a retired taxi driver, this week played in a 1-1 draw against Wales, and this was for the England over 75s walking football team. Yeah, okay, the walking football team. So, you know, if you want to get out and have a great time, it doesn't matter what your age is. There's someone somewhere and a group somewhere that can help you achieve your dreams. And the granddad said, I felt 10 foot tall. I couldn't be a prouder player than to play for England. I had my football taken away from me when I was aged 18 and thought my dream of playing for my country was over. Formerly Rex of Dorset, suffered a twisted vertebrae playing for Yeovil FC and could not walk for over many, many weeks. So the thing is that whatever your dream, just pursue it, because even in a time when all seems bad and there's lots of media reporting that things are so bad, there are glimmers of hope all the time. So that was my take on the week that was, and now we're moving on to the Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. And this week I've got a real good surprise for you. If you're listening and you're not actually watching, you may want to, when you get to a place where you can watch, you may want to tune in, because this week's Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is actually produced and interviewed in an idyllic place. Right, I'm with James O'Shea, who is a master craftsman, a former soldier and a trustee with the board of Transformation for Veterans. We have an interview in a great place. In fact, it's overlooking where Transformation for Veterans are scheduled to build a series of lodges, a number of lodges to help veterans and their loved ones. And I've known James for many, many years. He's a great friend of mine, and he shares his take on how you can transition from the military to civilian street and really, really appreciate how transferable your skills are. And what I got from the interview is that it doesn't matter what you do in the military, because what you must do is appreciate how good your transferable skills are, what value they have to employers, because, you know, things like reliability, punctuality, trustworthiness, being able to work in a team and work as an individual, work under pressure, just honesty and just the values that you hold are priceless to an employer. And James discusses with me how we've worked together over the years and what the benefits are to you as a veteran, and someone who's in the military planning on leaving and moving into civilian, and the benefits of either a serving or an ex-serving member of the armed forces has to Civilian Street. So I'll see you in a minute. Thank you. Hello and welcome to this edition of Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. And we truly are up on the roof, and in the background you will see the site where we're having the transformation of veterans lodges to help injured veterans and their families. And today I'm with a good friend of mine who is also a giant in the construction trade, and he knows loads of stuff, and he's also on the board of trustees. Hello Jim, all right, how you doing, mate?
How you doing?
Fantastic, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
All right, thank you.
Right, so how long have we known each other now? A while, isn't it? Yeah. Fabulous. So, and you know all about the Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is to help veterans who want to transition, and like, I know we still see ourselves between the ages of 18 or 26. We're a bit older than that, aren't we?
Just a bit.
And so we've seen a bit as well. So I just want to go through some sort of questions that I know you've got great answers for. So what prompted you to join the military?
It was just that time of like 1982, 83.
Yeah.
And there was no jobs going about.
Right.
Me and a friend, we just went in and joined up. It was a job, you see. We needed money. Money.
And it was right around about the same time as me, yeah. So when you joined her, tell me a bit about your military career.
Well, like first tour of Ireland, 1984.
Yeah.
Then I did another one, 85, and then 87. Been to Belize, a few places. Things like that. All over the world, really.
Yeah, right. So I mean, you are a man of the world, certainly. And who did you serve with?
First of all, I served with the Staffords.
Yeah.
And the Cheshires.
Right.
I also did P Company.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So so really, was at the sharp end on many occasions then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, apart from your great military career, which I know we've chewed the fat about a lot, and got similar stories. And when you transitioned from the military to Civvy Street, what was that like? What was a challenge for you, really?
The main challenge I found was going into Civvy Street. There's no one there to shout at you or anything. You've got to sort yourself out straight away.
Ah, that's interesting. Right, yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, I was all right, really. I one or two friends and that offered me jobs and stuff like that, so I was kicked off. But I believe these days they have quite a few courses and stuff they can do before they come out. So,
yeah,
I suggest they do them.
Yeah, because it's good to get as much grounding as you possibly can, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, so that's on the job scene. What sort of other challenges did you have when you were transitioning from the military?
Getting used to people.
Yeah.
That was the main thing.
Yeah.
Just ordinary, civic.
Yeah, because they're different, aren't they, to us? And I mean, I know that during my military career, quite a lead up before I got out. I mean, I was DJing, so I was out on Civvy Street DJing, and the fact is that I heard a lot of guys, male and female, say, "Oh well, civvies," and I thought, well, really, you when you get out, you're a civvy. Although differently trained, and what sort of welcome did you get in Civvy Street when you were out from leaving the military?
Quite a big one, really.
Was it?
A lot of people helped me. All sorts of things, just generally in life.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously your parents and that, your sister, family, but then other people as well.
Right. Okay, well that's good. So, I know you've had ups and downs because we've both had ups and downs, and in fact, just to put you in the picture, right? Normally, I know I'd be standing on the shoulder of giants and I might be in a suit or whatever. But I just wanted an impromptu one with you today, Jim, because we work a lot together, and we're at the minute we're on a roof. We're doing a repair on a roof, and because I'm ex-engineers, Jim's in the construction game, so we work together and we have a good laugh. And the fact is that with regards to your career since you got out, I know you've integrated pretty well. What's the secret of your success, do you reckon?
I've always worked hard.
Yeah.
You know, get there on time, finish on time, whatever, or you do a few more hours overtime, things like that. People you work with as well, they help you out, especially in the building game.
Yeah.
Great lads, all of them. You've got time for them all.
And you get a camaraderie the same as in the military, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
And it's good because similarly, like in a battle group where you're dependent on each other, artillery, infantry, special forces, engineers, REME, logistics. Well, on a building site, you got the same, haven't you? You got carpentry, joiner.
Yeah.
What other trades as well?
Brickies, sparks, plasters, all of
them. And like when you, as you mentioned before about transitioning, I know you guys get the opportunity to maybe go on a course, and you might not get your advanced city of girls, but you're starting. And then when you start with a good firm, there's lots of firms out there that support military now, aren't there?
Yeah, there are now. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I came out, there wasn't so much. Probably same as you, Joe.
Yeah.
But they have really got a grip of it, basically, and sorted people out, which is good.
And this next one, I always have a chuckle because we've known each other a long time. So when I asked this, you're probably going to chuckle yourself. How do you deal with failure? Because I mean, that's one way. Just laugh.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. You can't cry, can you? You can't go to anybody else, really. You just got to try and get over it best you can.
And I've recently been.
Said before,
friends help
you.
Yeah.
As well, don't they? So.
Yeah, and so how much do you spend once you've failed? How much time do you spend in the failure zone, and how much time do you look at doing some other stuff to get over it?
Next day, I've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Just get on with it then.
That's a pretty good way to do it. And I like to put failure down as research and development because we've been having a chat about that, haven't we?
Yeah, we are.
Because this roof's been a bit of a research and development.
Yeah, more than that, I'd say.
So how important is it to have a strong social network and business network? Because I know you've mentioned quite a bit about your family, so and friends.
Yeah. Always been in contact with them.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, some you talk to people that just don't talk to the family at all, and I think that's a shame. You should do.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what's gone on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, my father and my sister have gone, so it's just me and my mother now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
But, you just got to get on with it.
Yeah, and you know, with coaching, and I know you were at the top of your game in the military, and then when you started in your trade, how important is it to have a good coach or mentor? You know, someone who you look to help you get better at your skills.
I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Some of the people I've come across are really good. Sorts me out. Yeah. Tells me a few things I didn't know about. I've always kept with me.
Yeah.
Always.
And what sort of things, and quite often it may not be obvious when you're looking, but now looking back on it, what sort of things should someone, like, especially even in the military, look for in a good coach or mentor?
As long as they're honest with you.
Yeah.
Tell you everything. I think that's the main thing. You get a bond then, don't you? Between the two of you.
Yeah. And what this is, one of my favourite questions. What's the one tip, one coaching tip that you could give to the guys leaving the military that could really help them?
Just work hard.
Yeah.
Put the time in, and you'll get the time out of it as well.
I'm looking also from that, because it's about working hard and working smart. How useful and how transferable do you think the skills are that you learn in the military?
Some are very handy. Some are. I mean, obviously not.
Not everything. Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But
Having said that, though, I know how good you were with weapons. Right now, you might not be stripping a weapon out here. The skills that you learned, dexterity and everything, could quite easily be used. So when it comes to the tools,
yeah. Oh, I mean, you look after your tools, don't you?
Yeah,
You're better, like.
yeah.
I need kit as well. Always look after that.
Yeah. And you know, things like reliability, punctuality, trust. I mean, how important is that to employers, do you think?
Very important, I think. I mean, rely on us to get to a job. They will, we're the first one there. As a normal civvy, well, they try and get out of bed still while you're all doing hours work.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And I mean, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for coming on board of trustees for Transformation for Veterans. And this is where we plan to build lodges for veterans. And I mean, because we do know each other well, what benefits do you think that a veteran and a family could get from coming here once we've got the lodges built?
It's just all like everything together, the family and everything. I think it's great, absolutely brilliant. They'll have everything here, lodges, stuff like that. Also, the shops are only just down the road as well, not far away, so there's not a problem there.
And plus the training and the camaraderie and everything else. Well, listen. I know it's getting a bit windy now, and I said we'd keep it pretty short because you could probably see in the background there's some clouds, and to my right, your left, it's looking pretty blowy, and there's some dark clouds coming. So what I'd like to do is just say thank you so much, Jim, for our friendship and helping us out with Transformation for Veterans, and then also for having a chat today. It was really good, and it was enjoyable. So tune in for the next one, and we'll be chatting to someone else. And it might be in another interesting place. It might be in my office, but stay tuned and you'll. So here we are at the health, wealth and mindset section of the podcast. And today I want to be guiding you through some explanation on the wealth aspect of the tips and describe, guide and help you perhaps appreciate what's going on in the economy, because some of my clients, friends, colleagues have been coming to me and saying, Joe, what exactly is going on in the economy? What are the ramifications of the various actions that are being taken, and what could it have and what effect could it have on the economy? Well, what I'm doing today, in case you're watching or listening to this podcast and you're not watching, I'm going to just bring into shot now a flip chart, the good old flip chart, no PowerPoint, just the basic stuff, going back to basics because I love basics. And what I want to do, first of all, I'm just revealing on the flip chart now something called join the dots. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I used to love joining the dots. You start off with just a page with dots on. There was no picture, there was nothing. And then as you started joining the dots, the picture became apparent and it started to make sense. So that's what I want to do today with the economy and what ramifications could happen and the effect of various things. Now, you'll see the dots are different colours as well. I don't know whether you can make that out. You probably can. So if we have a look at the first dot, let's say, for instance, in fact, what you've got here is you've got a vertical axis and a horizontal axis, and that is for a graph, for instance. Now, if we say that the vertical axis is a percentage, right? So we put a percentage sign there on the left-hand vertical axis, right? Okay, and on the bottom, the horizontal axis, we put time. Okay, right, so now this first dot, which is up towards the higher end of the percentage, is actually represents inflation. Forgive my back for the minute, it'll all come apparent in a second. Right, if you can see this, I'll bring it a bit closer to you. Right, so, inflation. And let's say on the percentage side, we've got gradients of 1, 2, and going up to 9, 10, 11. Okay? And then we have the black dot here. We have wages. Now, I didn't want to do the reveal with the post-it pads or anything, because I want to actually, as the joiner dots are, I want to build this as we go along so it makes sense. Now, the next one we have is the interest rate. And I'm going to start putting figures in here in a second. Interest rate, and finally we have unemployment. Okay, so there your picture coming together now, and in fact what I'll do is I'll bring this across closer now so you can see. Okay, so at the minute, if we assume, or we can say, that inflation is around about 9% at the minute. Wages, let's just assume that you were going to have a wage increase of 3%. And the interest rate is, let's say, goes up to 3% also, and possibly higher. And unemployment at the minute is round about 3%. Now, these figures, where I've got them raised slightly, is what could happen in the future. So let's say that the public sector workers get a wage increase and it goes up to 11 or 12%. So we'll put it at 12%. And then inflation, which is only temporary at the minute, caused by, the majority of it caused by energy prices, food prices going up because of the increase in energy, and that is causing a massive problem. And also you've got the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which is going on as well, which is causing issues, hence the energy price increases. Then what happens? The Bank of England, their remit is to keep inflation at 2%. Now, at the minute, it's more than 2% because it's around about 9%. There are talks and forecasts of 11%, which is what the RMT union is saying. The fact is, though, that's only forecast, that's not happened yet, and it may not happen either. So, the inflation is at 9%. Wage increases, if they stick to what the government wants, which is between 2 and 3%, that could be all right. Of course, if you're on a low wage, then you're finding inflation is a real pressure at the minute. Unemployment is currently around about 3.64%. And the interest rate is currently about 1.5%. Right. Now, it could go greater than that. What will happen is, right, this is the thing. If the wages go up to 12%, 13%, or in fact, like medical staff want a 30% wage rise, or that's what they've asked for, and barristers are asking for, who are supported by the element of the support that's given to people who want legal advice paid for, then many of those I've heard are on a very low salary and they want 15% wage rise. If that happens, right, that will put more money in the economy, right? Are you with me so far? When more money comes into the economy, people spend. Now, for those on really low wages, that's not a problem because they need to spend to pay for goods and services to be able to live. The fact is, if you give a blanket wage rise so people have got more money to spend, more money comes into the economy, which means that inflation then increases. If inflation increases, the Bank of England needs to increase interest rates, because what they're going to do is they want to control the economy with one of the only ways they have, which is interest rate. So now what you can see is that's going up. Inflation is going up. Wages are going up. Which means there comes a point where, if all this is happening, interest rates are going up, inflation is going up, that means that goods and services, or the cost of manufacturing to supply goods and services to us, the buyers, the public, well then what happens is that businesses start to struggle, as is going on at the minute with all sorts of transport, delivery, and lots of stuff, which means that some businesses will go out of business and cease to trade. If that happens, of course, unemployment goes up. Then, when unemployment goes up, what happens then is wage demands decrease or go back down, which brings inflation down, because after a period of time inflation is taken up anyway, which means that inflation will come back down. Unemployment will stay up and interest rates will stay up for the time being. So the point I'm making about this, and hopefully you're with me so far, is that what we need to do, and I get it, I totally get it, that for the last 2 years or more now actually, we have been through a really testing period, really struggling period, and wage increases haven't happened, and in real terms I suppose you could argue that wages have gone down, but with inflation at only 2%, then it's not being realised as much. If we were in a country like Zimbabwe, their inflation is almost 200%. So that means that if something cost £100 this year, by the end of the year, it will cost £300 for the same item. So in the scheme of things, the 9%, if it costs £100, it'll go up to £109, which in the scheme of things is still an increase, not as great as some of the other countries such as the Philippines, Brazil, Zimbabwe and many others. So my point is that we need to be careful with wages on a blanket wage increase, otherwise inflation will go up even more because there'll be more money in the economy, which means that the Bank of England has only got one method of controlling this, and that's by increasing interest rates, which could put some businesses out of business, and then unemployment will rise. So it's a vicious circle, because once it starts, and by the way, how do I know this isn't just textbook theory? Because I've lived through a few of these now. Remembering back when I was a lad in the 70s, but also in the 80s and the 90s, I've seen this at various levels, and it does happen. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And if not enjoyed it, at least found it interesting, because it's not exactly an enjoyable subject, I don't suppose. I find it interesting, and if that's helped you understand things a little bit better, that's absolutely fantastic. Because what I wanted to do today was join the dots up so you have a better understanding and a better appreciation of what can happen if this chain of events starts to happen. Oh, there's one more thing as well. What the government can do to control things is by policy. Now, this hasn't been particularly relevant on a day-to-day basis. This time, though, you remember that quantitative easing, which is where the government and the Bank of England pump money into the economy, some say it was too much, which has caused inflation. The fact is, I'm not sure about that, because the inflationary pressures are being caused predominantly by the Ukraine conflict with Russia, and what the Russians are wanting to do to take over the Ukraine, which has bumped up energy prices and had a whole massive effect on wheat and food supplies. So that is something that even the central banks cannot control. The other thing that can happen now is the government can step in by having a structured policy to be able to give tax breaks and various incentives, maybe reduce VAT on fuel, because the VAT take on fuel has also increased, so they've got that option. So if you find that interesting and you want to know any more and get some further feedback on how potential ramifications and what could happen and my opinion, because remember this is only my opinion, then feel free to drop me a line, give a like on the webinar, on the YouTube link, on Spotify, and I'll get in touch. So until we meet again, until the next time, you have a brilliant day. Thank you.